Now that you have mastered writing effective MCQ stems, this video tutorial will help you construct effective MCQ responses. If you remember back to the elements of an MCQ test item, the possible responses consist of the correct response and the alternatives, or the distractors. Over the next few minutes, we will look at some best practices and examples to help us write effective MCQ responses. All of the possible responses must be plausible, believable, or realistic. In this example, the stem asks, which beer is an example of a lager? The stem is specific. We are looking for a beer that is an example of a lager. The argument is that we can immediately eliminate response D, Coca-Cola, which is the world's most famous soft drink. For most, this would not be a plausible response, allowing the student to eliminate it immediately without much thought. They now have fewer options to choose from when making their final choice. All of the possible choices should be clear and concise, not wordy. In the example on the left, we see choices that are multiple lines of text. The student has to read through these different responses in order to address the problem being asked in the stem. In addition, the responses are different in terms of length and number of sentences, which should be avoided. Response A is only one sentence and 3 lines, where B and C are multiple sentences with multiple lines. On the right, we have a similar question related to drink preparation, but one that is much more concise, with clear alternatives. These alternatives address the explicit problem seen in the stem. The response choices should be listed in a logical order. For example, with numbers, either high to low or low to high. The example on the right shows the responses in numerical order, low to high. In the example on the left, the responses are in a random order. We have 18, 10, 24, 16. There isn't much logic to how we've determined what number goes for A, B, C, or D. When writing distractors, by keeping responses in a logical order, this helps us to avoid bias in position in terms of where to find the correct response. All of the possible response choices should be mutually exclusive. In both STEM examples, we see the question, according to the BDS recipe, how many ounces of butter are used to make 1 serving of Bananas Foster? On the left, we see responses that are not mutually exclusive. There's a range of possible responses, 0.5 to 1, 1 to 3, 4 to 6, 7 to 9. There's a second problem in these response choices, as both A and B have 1 in the response choice. On the right, we see responses that are singular, mutually exclusive. There's just 1 correct answer or correct response. The responses are presented in a logical order numerically, low to high. Response choices should be free from clues or hints that guide the student to the correct response. In this example below, the stem states, which city is home to the original producer of mustard? The stem is clear. We are looking for a city that is known for its mustard production. However, when we look at the responses, there are visible clues that eliminate some of them right away. Most everyone knows that France and Canada are countries, not cities. Therefore, we can eliminate them right away, leaving only 2 possible choices instead of 4. All MCQ test items should have 1 and only 1 clear response. You should avoid using all of the above or none of the above, as when we write responses with one of those options, we tend to be biased towards one of these options always being the correct response. It also lends to guessing, as if the student can say for sure that 2 out of the 3 responses are correct, then they will automatically select all of the above. On the left, we have an example where if I know that a Bay Breeze and a Bloody Mary are both made with vodka, I will move to select all of the above, even if I'm not sure about the salty dog option. On the right, we see a reframed stem, still addressing the main points of what is the main spirit ingredient in a specific cocktail, but the student must select one response. Over the past few minutes, we looked at best practices for constructing effective MCQ responses. Let's review these once again. All responses should be plausible. All choices should be clear and concise. The choices should be presented in a logical order. The choices should be mutually exclusive. The choices should be free from clues about which response is correct. And finally, the choices all of the above and none of the above should not be used. Remember, the process of writing an effective MCQ test item includes writing the stem and then writing effective responses. This second step is just as important as the first in order to have an effective test item.